So, you want to be an ace pilot in the universe. Well, you clicked on the wrong video, but you can improve your skills with Foxwell missions and make some decent AUEC while you're at it. I'm only halfway through the rep, and I can make 222k or 333k a mission, not to mention scripts for Wicklow. I tried the ghillie missions when they initially dropped into the game, and I feel like they do okay in teaching how to approach a fight, kind of. That's where Foxwell comes in to further polish up what you learned through the ghillie missions. When Foxwell missions are working properly, to be fair, but I digress. The situations in the Foxwell missions are much more difficult, and, well, they do say to bring a friend in the description of the contract, but I just chose to ignore that, and it can very quickly become overwhelming, but still doable. And I think if you don't put yourself in an overwhelming situation, or at least nerf yourself in some way, you're not going to improve. So make yourself uncomfortable and enjoy the pain. To help give some guidance though, here are some things I've learned about dogfighting. Orbiting is king, but heavily depends on the ship you fly. It can be challenging and may even take longer to gun something down, and that's mostly in a 1v1 situation. Otherwise, you may need to aggro a ship or two away from the swarm that you're fighting to get some kills in. To elaborate on orbiting, I adore my Talon. As much as people give me shit for using that ship, I love it. I can out-orbit anything out there while staying out of their line of gunfire. However, you have to make sure you don't get shot because this thing's shields are incredibly weak, not to mention the hull HP is even weaker. You lose an engine, your Dunyan rings. Even if you manage to accomplish maintaining that mosquito energy, it'll still take a while to gun something down, regardless of the weapons equipped. The Talon only has 2 size 4 guns, and comparatively speaking to the Buck and some other ships, that's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. The Buck has 2 size 1s, 2 size 3s, and a size 4, and that thing can do pretty well to melt other ships. However, orbiting with the Buck works a bit different than the Talon. Instead of using my vertical thrusters mostly to maintain orbit, I found myself having to do a boost turn, i.e. rip the pitch of the ship and throttle it out to corner it better. With that being the case, I would have to reallocate my power to engines, guns, and shields throughout the entire fight to adjust accordingly to what I needed at that moment. Whereas the Talon, I just had everything maxed out and could forget about my power allocation and could focus on the gunfire. So make sure you have some hotkeys set up for delegating your power. All that being said, I would highly recommend going to these asteroid mining bases and practice flying a bit. These locations give ample variety for obstacles and tight maneuvering. I honestly could spend an hour just flying around these bases. Doing this will give you a better understanding of how you need to maneuver different ships in different situations. That way you're a little more acquainted with the ship before you put yourself in a hairy situation. Just keep in mind some enemies might spawn while you're here, but if you just go inside the asteroid, they'll likely end up crashing and taking care of themselves. Or you can use them as practice, you do you. I tried upgrading to bigger ships to see how they would handle, and well, I for sure prefer a light or stealth fighter. That being said, this is when gimbaled mode comes in. Nerfing your fire rate but allowing you to have more accuracy. So I found myself toggling in and out of gimbaled mode with these bigger ships. I never bothered with a gimbaled in a smaller ship because I found no need to, because those ships handle well enough to where I can maintain my guns on the target. So if you're flying a light fighter or a stealth fighter, just pretend gimbaled mode does not exist. You'll become a better pilot because of it. So at this point you may be wondering, what gun do you use, and more importantly, on what ship? For me personally, I found that ships that can maintain being close, whether that's through speed and maneuverability, or through their sheer tankiness, the bigger, heavier, slower projectile speed guns were better. So for example, cannons and attritions felt great on the Talon, but The Buccaneer felt better suited for the CF repeaters due to their superior projectile speed and the fact I kept having to do an oblong rotation rather than a tight circle rotation. Ships like the Scorpius and the Corsair would do better with something similar to what I put on the Talon. Cannons and attritions. Just remember, it's a matter of preference, so just use whatever you land more shots with at the end of the day. Don't listen to the min-maxy meta sweats out there, just use what you like. Now as for missiles, I don't like using missiles, but if I know I have a lot of enemies, like when you get to the orange level or the red level missions, you're going to be running into a huge swarm of enemies. Right out the gate, it's wanting you to destroy 5 to 8 ships. A lot of them are medium fighters or bigger. It gives you a timer of 5 minutes to take these guys out. Knowing that, and knowing how long it takes for me to gun things down in, say, like a Talon, I would roll up and shoot a missile first, then line them up with whatever. When you get to the red level missions, I started using missiles a lot more. A tip to keep in mind when using missiles is don't blow your load early. As much as I know a lot of you may do this regularly, hold it back, wait until last second, fire that missile at about 2k, 2.5k, and then line them up with the guns. Guaranteed, when it's an NPC anyway, it's going to land. PvP, well, it's a mixed bag. That being said, don't rely on missiles. Don't become one of those missile spamming Andes because, oh, it's easier to get kills. You're not going to get better by spamming missiles. You're going to get better by doing what's more difficult. People come into my stream and go, why aren't you using a Gladius? Why are you using those guns? Why are you not using this meta thing? Because I want to improve. And that should be the approach a lot of people take with this. Don't do the meta, do what you like, use what's more difficult. When I first started flying, I was told it's easier to land your shots with the CFs as opposed to the attritions because the attritions have a slower projectile speed. So I put the attritions on my ship and tried to improve that way. Well, boy, tell you what, when I switched over to the CFs after using attritions for a couple days, it felt like I couldn't miss a single shot. Make yourself uncomfortable. Make it difficult. You'll be better at the end of it by doing so. I'm not saying all this because I'm incredibly skilled at dogfighting. I have a long way to go when it comes to skill. But just over the last week, I've improved drastically. And I hope some of this info helps you figure out how to do better in the pilot seat. I'll make a follow-up video on my progression in skill. And in the meantime, I'll be trying more ships in dogfighting situations. Next up is the Saber. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you know what to do. I'm also live every weekday 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. as well as 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. 2 streams a day. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your morning, day, evening, whatever it may be for you. And I'll see you next time.